Hello and welcome to Peter's Principles. As you know, you never know who you're going to see on Peter's Principles. And today we have the great honor of seeing Dave Ouellette, who's running for state representative in the 18th Middlesex, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, in the 18th Middlesex district. He is very active in the acre, right? Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, very.
Okay.
Love my acre.
Okay. And congratulations on your Delaney Way, is that what it is?
Decatur Way.
Decatur Way.
Yes.
Decatur Way project. It shows that you are industrious and talented in your neighborhood. I was very impressed with the presentation that you made and the accolades that you received. Again, thank you, and please continue to make the same efforts in Lowell.
Well,
So that would be nice.
that's my hobby. That's most people can go fishing, other people can go to this, and mine is to work my neighborhood and go out and meet people and see what I can do to make lives better. That's what I've been doing.
Okay. What is your neighborhood? Where do you come from, and where are you located?
I was actually born in the acre, right here in, Shaw Hospital, but I mean, we were
Right.
living on Merrimack Street, pretty much across from the City Hall around that area, and up on the third floor. And then through my life, I've lived at different stages. I come from a broken family, so I grew up with my grandmother at Lowell Housing, 374 Adams Street. I went to St. Joseph's Grammar School, St. Joseph's High School, then eventually graduated Lowell High School. I moved out of the acre a little bit when I first got married, and that was because my father was renting a house up in Pawtucketville, and the second floor was available. And when I got married, I needed a place to move to. But a very short term of time, I eventually came back to the acre. I bought another house. It's at one of the old Mill Girls row houses. I've been there for another 15, 18 years now. Rose my family there. I sent my three sons to the public schools, Lowell High School, and I still choose to live here.
So you have a row house.
I live in one of the row houses on
That's
Carver Street.
great.
It's
Fantastic.
great. It's the inside. It's still historic on the inside. I haven't changed anything like that. I love history, so I keep everything in as much as I can to the original way that it was.
Well, they say that the original mill houses, there were only two left, but this makes three, so that's good.
Yeah, this is, and the funniest part is if you go in, the closets are only about a foot. It's not even wide enough for a hanger
Right.
going across, and it's because they didn't have clothes to hang. The mill girls had the garments and the robes.
Right.
So if you go inside, it's hooks all the way around, even on the backside, like where the
Really?
door is, and it's complete hooks, and that's just so they could hang their clothes.
That's fantastic.
And that's how the closets were back then.
This is an opinion show, and I have an opinion, and I'm supporting someone other than you for state representative. However, you're my second choice, and I do not make many bones about the fact that I believe that Vadi Mom deserves to be reelected to a second term. But I am impressed with what you've done and what you've accomplished, and it's fantastic. And I'm impressed with from Vadi's standpoint, I'm impressed with the Couple Square project. I thought that was good. From his standpoint, I'm impressed with the fact that he helped bring in $200 million for a courthouse. If that ever comes out to bear, I don't know what's going on with that particular project. Do you think Roddy needs to be replaced, or are you running for other reasons?
Pretty much, I like Roddy. Roddy and I actually get along. You see us at a lot of events. We're very cordial to each other. I've always been very active in my neighborhood. And I ran last time. I was extremely green, and I just always wanted to get into some form of politics. With my job with the city, where I'm the senior code enforcement officer, I can never run for council or school committee because there'd be too many conflicts of interest.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to even have a conversation on the floor, more than likely. So I always wanted to, when I heard that Kevin was moving on and became a new city manager, which was a great thing, that seat was going to be open. I did it from shooting from the hip, like I do at my acre community stuff, and like to bring change and do stuff. So I've learned so much more in the last 2 years of how to do it, and I'm not at all running against Roddy. I'm just running to give people a choice and just an option. And this will be my final run ever. It's not going to be an annual thing by no means.
Right.
I just know I made a lot of mistakes on my first run that were just inevitable because I didn't have a team. I wasn't strong enough, and
Well, that was a tough run too, because you had what,
and a
7
lot of
people
us-
running?
Yes, and there was so many people. We all split the vote.
Right.
There was a lot of good people running, and so I just chose to do it one more time, and especially with the changes I've been, I'm loud and vocal, and I'm just gonna just do it, and after that, I'll just be happy for the content for the rest of my life. It's part of the bucket list thing to give it an honest try,
Right.
and that's pretty much what I'm doing. And it's like I always said, I will never be a negative person against Roddy. I won't do it. I refuse to. I believe him and we have a friendship between us that's there. So I'm just running as an option to the people, and also because of my community involvement, and I love our acre and I love our Highlands.
Yeah, okay. Well, the Highlands and the Acre are the two areas that are affected, right?
Correct. Yes.
Ward 8, Ward 4, and Ward 11?
What, two?
Two.
Two.
Okay. So that's the reason you're running.
Yes, and that's just to get it out. It's
Right.
something I've always
A
wanted. It's
bucket
always been
list item.
part of my bucket list item.
Right.
And I just want to say that I gave a true, honest, forceful run, which I know I did not do last time, and with everything split up, and just want to see where it goes.
Yeah.
And I believe that if I happen to be the one that's elected, everybody knows how. I mean, I'm on the streets all the time.
Right.
You walk down the streets, every business owner knows me, all the nonprofits know me. I'm just always there. I've always been there, and even if not elected, I will still be there.
Right.
I don't take anything to heart, and then I'll support Roddy.
Mm.
And this is why I'm running.
Okay.
It's-
It's a very reasonable explanation. I'm pleased that you're running for those reasons.
Yeah.
So, now, this one is kind of a statement more than anything else, but I personally believe the Khmer community has tossed itself down the bottomless pit with the difficulties in the homeland and things that are being said about various people who are running for the office and things like that. And I really feel badly for the Khmer community. What is your take on the effect on the Cambodian community of various people running for the same office?
It's like when every other ethnic group come here, there's growing pains, there's adjustments, there's probably regrets or sores from the homeland, and you're all coming to here, and now your community is much smaller. You're not spread across the whole country. So I believe some of that is just the growing pains of coming to a new country and grouping so many different individuals together and so many different views. It's just like all of us. We all have different views. We have different opinions. And till they're resolved, there could be turmoil for a little bit till it gets settled in maybe a generation or so. Everybody's very good, and it's just sorting out their opinions and their facts and how to feel comfortable in this great America.
Okay. What will Lowell benefit from a Dave Ouellette term?
One is
keeping Decatur away in the spectrum. That was a fantastic job that you did virtually by yourself, not by yourself, but with just a few people.
Decatur
Decatur
and
way.
any other stuff. Well, the thing is that I love bringing change, and I'm very active at it, and I think out of the box. Sometimes I don't even think I have a box to sit in. Really?
Okay.
So like the first project when I first became I founded the Acre Neighborhood Group Action because of the shootings that were happening in the Acre. And I went to Ogonieves Park. There was an outside meeting back then by Superintendent Ken LaValle.
Okay.
And he said one of the problems in the Acre was there was no more Acre Neighborhood Group. The CBA had become a CDC, Community Development Corporation.
Right.
And there was nobody active on the streets right then and there. He says, and so because of that, he says, we need somebody to be the voice of the Acre, somebody to be loud, like walking the streets all the time, like the old-fashioned neighborhood groups. So after the meeting, I was always here. I was just, I had gone after a lot of the problems in the Acre, just individually, and just, so I had already been on the board of the CBA by then. And so when he said that, I said, you know what? I says, I'll do that. So I went and I met with Ken the next day, and I said, I guess I'm going to start a neighborhood group. I'm going to call it Action, Acre Coalition to Improve Our Neighborhood. If you have a problem, come to Action. So one of my first issues was the North Common. I grew up on the Common, and I remember when they put in that beautiful amphitheater,
Right.
that there was music, there was entertainment, there was fun. And when you put people together of all different ethnic groups, different ages, different everything, and you sing and you dance together, the next time you see them at Market Basket, the next time you're going down the street, you look at each other and you say hi. All of a
Right.
sudden there's a smile on your face instead of getting nervous.
Right.
So I said, that needs to be relived. I went up there, the lights had been out for 10 years, it was all crumbling. The drug dealers were using it as and the gangs were using it as a fighting arena. And literally, the two gangs would meet out there and they would fight right there. And both sides would watch it on the stages. Also, there was needles everywhere. There was a shooting gallery. So I said, we need to take this back. So with the help of everything to do is with the community and hundreds of people involved. And so we all work together, and because once you get them to buy in ownership and become part of it,
Right.
you don't get tagged, it doesn't get destroyed, and they're really part of the community comes together. So long story short, over the next 2 years, we transformed it with the help from the city, from Youth Build America, which is great. CTI's Youth Build America, the teens over there have been a part on every one of the projects we've done. And so we finished the amphitheater, and then at the end we painted the word with the cultural organization Lowell. They were coming over and they said, Dave, do you think it is something we can leave our mark? I says, I would love to paint the word welcome on every step has a riser. So I says, I'd love the word welcome in as many different languages and their italics and the colors of their country. So we did a call out to the ethnic communities, and Cool supplied the paint, and over the next 10 days to 2 weeks we turned it into now what's called the Welcome Rainbow, because of the shape of the amphitheater.
Right.
And so we took that back. And now that that's back, we threw events there. We showed our first movie on the Common ever. And one of the things I showed is to show how we can make a difference in our children's life in the community if we just try. So that night I gave away free popcorn with the CVA, but the only way they could get popcorn was to say please and thank you. So I had all these people out there. And believe me, it was not a hard thing. At first, they laughed and they had everything else, but I refused to give them popcorn. And then eventually they said, can we please have a bag of popcorn? And I'd hold it out, and they would say thank you, and I would let it go. And it became the par for the course for the whole rest of the night. And not one person had a problem, not one teenager, not one child, nobody had a problem. So if we could do it in that 2-hour interval where because I like everything to be a teaching experience too if we're doing it.
Right.
So it worked great. And so I won't dwell on that one. So now, because of the change out there, Mill City Grows, another great nonprofit in the city,
Right.
came and they have 40 garden spots for the community. We just put up, the city just put up a beautiful new volleyball court there, and now they're putting in a new little corner park.
Nice.
So that whole thing has been transformed with only a few people starting with just pressure washers and just going up there saying, we want to take this back.
Okay. What's the location of the volleyball court?
The volleyball court is, if you're sitting at the amphitheater, you're looking towards Lowell Housing. It's right there. It's part of that. Whole area.
It's part of it. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And then and the children love it because it gives something. If we can use up that stored energy, because children have a lot of energy, we just got to find a way to let them use it so they don't get themselves in trouble. Then we went around the corner. We did Lavassa Park and Garden. That's full of art and poetry, and I make everything about art and poetry because with the arts you can change so much. It's amazing. But our last project was the Decatur Way project, which you were talking about. And that just started because the Upper Merrimack Street needed drastic change. Started that a little over 5 years ago. And they were robbing people on Merrimack or Salem Street. The UMass Lowell wasn't even there yet. They were still the old St. Joseph's Hospital. And all these issues were arising. And so by sitting back and looking at it, realized it was because it was 16 foot wide, 1,200 foot long of pure woods in an intercity area with 2 main streets with people just walking. So they would come through, and I call them the rat holes. They cut the little fence like this, and they cut it just enough so their body can go through.
Squeeze through.
So they'd come out of the woods, they'd go running after you, and they'd see you coming down Merrimack Street. They would either knock you over or do whatever, or threaten you and take your phone, your iPad, or whatever else they could, your wallet, and they'd go running through there. If the police officers came to chase them with their billy clubs, their whole gear, they couldn't fit through those little holes. By the time they ran around and tried to look through those woods, which was like this, you couldn't see anything, they would always get away. So we just started with friends again, and we just went over and chainsaws and just started dropping the trees. Called up the city for help to see if they could put it through the chipper. But as we were going through, we had literally thousands of needles. Trash was unbelievable. When we reached about halfway in, which was probably 100 feet from the House of Hope, another great organization with Debbie Chelsea, we found a queen-size mattress, and around it there was literally hundreds of needles. That was a shooting gallery that nobody could see, and it was just feet from one of the great organizations that we have in our city. So we had the mattresses removed. We picked up that area. So over a matter of a summer, it took a whole summer because we're just doing it, volunteers.
Right.
We reached the other end, and for the first time in probably 10 years, you could see from one end to the other. It stopped a lot of the crime right off the bat. But the problem was is how did we keep it from growing? And the thing, and that was to get people to walk down it. How do we get people to walk down it? We'll go back to art and poetry.
Right.
So if we make this a beautiful art and poetry gallery, so that's been an idea of mine from the beginning that we're going to transform this thing. But it was how do we do it? So every year we would just go over, continue pulling weeds with groups. Groups of 40 people would come, UMass Lowell would come, Youth Build America, somebody cares from the Highlands would come over, groups, 40, 50 people at a time, and we just keep cleaning it. The bamboo we were pulling out of there, I swear it grew as soon as we reached the other end of the alley. You pull the bamboo, you turn around, and it hit me back up.
Right.
So it took years of doing nothing but just keeping it down. And then Lowell come along, and they were doing a great project. And while UMass Lowell came over, built the new crossing up there, which was made a tremendous difference, and they put the police station there. Then the city was doing the water separation, the sewer and the drainage separation, which was another great thing. And they needed a way to get from Salem Street to Merrimack Street. And with the alley open and everybody could see it, they looked and they said, well, if we come down here, go down here. And so they had to dig it all up. So everybody had talked, and he said, if you're digging it up, how about if we put concrete on it and just that way it's done and it becomes a walkway. Then the city went all the way, and it was a great thing. They made it a green alley. So the concrete is a porous concrete. It accepts the rainwater.
Right.
House of Hope had water issues. We put in rain gutter drainage things, changed a lot of the other stuff. So the bonus became is that once everybody got on board, UMass Lowell, the city of Lowell, every other group, there's over 40 different nonprofits or organizations that were part of this in the last 5 years. And it was done with everybody. So I couldn't have done it. If one partner was missing, it all wouldn't have worked. But at the end of it right now, it's a beautiful art walkway. It has about 100 pieces of art from all the city schools, all the different ethnic groups. Also, the senior class project for Lowell High School is hanging there. We have a couple of other artists that did beautiful murals. We actually have that paint that when it gets wet, you actually can see, like we put reptiles, turtles, salamanders, fish, and it's all hidden in the concrete, and you only see it when it rains.
Yeah.
So that made a tremendous difference, and so there's a lot to reason to walk. So to keep crime down, we say walk the neighborhoods. But to walk the neighborhoods, we got to give them a reason to walk. You can't walk in a dilapidated area with crime and all that other stuff. So the best way to move it along, I'm not the old-fashioned neighborhood group who'll go take your picture and everything. There's a lot of people with a lot of issues out there, and to take a picture of them and start doing it that way, we have a lot of great programs coming along, like the Megan's House now and what the Lowell House is doing. So we realize we have to change the person and help the person. So the thing is just we were all scared in our houses because of the drug dealers. They would come out and they'd get in our face and they'd stand there and they'd intimidate us, and we'd end up going into our houses and hiding and being nervous or move out of our neighborhoods. Instead, by doing these community projects like this, we're putting hundreds of good, happy, positive people on the street, which just naturally moves them along, because now there's more of us walking around than there are of them standing on the corner. And it's been working tremendously what we can do on that. And so the acre, that whole upper Merrimack Street and going over to the amphitheater has changed dramatically just from these great programs.
I think that
and the people walking.
Yeah, I think that Cody's Market is especially pleased.
Yes, he is.
He's very pleased. He loves it.
It's
He's been there for how many years?
Their shop was founded in 1917. So right now, next year will be their 100th anniversary.
Oh, really?
Of the place, yes.
Wow.
And it started off with his father-in-law owned it, and then when he passed away, Roger's father, Wilfred Lavassa, took it over, and then Wilfred, now he's passed it down to Roger, and Roger has two great kids coming up. And that's why on Whiting Street, when we did the park and garden, that was another dilapidated area. We took a 30 by 30 lot and turned it into a nice park and garden, and we named it after the Lavassa family, which is Wilfred Lavassa.
Oh, good.
Yep, and we have a couple of poems written by my great friend Augustus Clayton.
I wanted to ask you about Augustus Clayton. Actually, he goes by two names, right? Paul?
Well, his real name is Paul Anu.
Paul
He
Anu.
was also he's famous at Lowell High School. He's on the walls for a great alumni for football and also for wrestling. He was on a championship of both of
was
those.
he?
Yes, so he's this great big stocky guy
Yeah.
that legend at Lowell High School for two different reasons. And if you go in there, his plaques are up there.
Now his poems are in Decatur Way, right?
Yeah, he has
You,
his
you have
poems.
some of his poems
Yes,
in
we
Decatur.
have poems from like 5 different poets, but he's definitely a lot of his poems are in there also.
He wrote one. I have to say he's the only person who ever wrote a poem for me.
That's one of his specialties. If he meets you, within weeks you're going to have a poem.
No,
Amazing.
I
He's nice.
had a poem. It was very nice,
And I'm sure it was great.
and we had him on the show here, and had a good time with him. He was. We were reading poetry on the show, which is. I'm an English major, so that's like heaven to me. But
We have that new Hypertext downtown, the new bookstore. He did a book reading and a book signing there a few weeks ago. He was proud as a peacock. It made his life that he was actually doing a book signing, and he did very good. He sold out of his books that night.
I was going to say he should do a book signing.
Yeah, he ended up doing it.
You seem to be very well liked, and how does that parlay itself into an outstanding term? Do you think for you if you get elected? Your friend list, your bucket list, so to speak, your friend list. How does that parlay into a good term for you?
Because of all the friends I have.
Because of
and
all the
things
friends
I
you
know.
have.
Well, just from always being in the community, if I see anybody having a problem, I talk to absolutely everybody. I go over if I see a person having a problem. I don't care if it's trying to get to those, put the money in the parking meter, to if they fall into, if I hit them. I go over, I help, I talk to absolutely everybody. Even on the amphitheater when we started, there were people with addiction issues. I sit there and I talk with them, and we get a little life stories going, and then all the so I explain to them all the different resources, whether it be an elderly issue, whether it be this, and this is before I work with the city, and I just know the groups to bring them to, whether it be CTI, the House of Hope, this area, that, and so I've just been doing that for years, even before I started my neighborhood group, and so because of that, I've just amassed a group of friends, just because
It's grown.
just because of being in the community and loving my community and seeing what I could do to help the fellow man.
That's good. Okay, I was just curious because what I wrote down here is that you should spend 5 minutes or so telling why you would like to be elected and what the position you'd like to be elected to and what you plan on doing when you get there.
Well, there's a couple of different main ones, and some of them could be a little bit longer, but I'm going to go for one program that I really believe should be instituted, and that's one of the other reasons I'm running too, is I brought it up just at the end of the last term, is besides the community policing, the other safety, and all the other issues, and the opioid issue, one of my main things is safe, decent housing. And people should be able to live in a neighborhood or live in a house and feel comfortable at night. They should have the amenities that they need. But so one of the biggest problems, like even the upper floors for downtown, why they're not done, and why a lot of buildings are run down, is because of the sprinkler issue. If you hit a threshold of doing a certain amount of work in your house, you would now have crossed the line and you have to put in sprinklers. Sprinklers could cost you $30,000 a unit. It's about $25,000 to $30,000 just to open the road to get to your house. So let's say you have a 4-family, you could hit $120,000, no problem, probably even a little bit more. We already have a program that's called the Ouellette program that's been around since 1978 or so. Right. And they have what's called a duster program. And so they give you the money up front. You don't have to pay it back on a lot of the times, and it's called duster because the loan is due upon sale, transfer, or refinance.
Okay.
So, and that's why they
you
call
come
it
up
duster.
with action and industrial. You come up with you had a good.
Well, duster's been around. That's how the Ouellette program runs.
Okay.
So the state or federal government will give you $100,000. You never have to pay it back till the time that due upon sale, transfer, or refinance.
Right.
So it's not creating the wheel. It's already running. It's already a program that is running. I believe that a lot of the lead in this state has been taken care of. Every new building that's built does not have any in it because of all the great programs that we have for that. So if the funds are still around because it's been a revolving account, I don't know how much is in that account. That's something I'd have to look at. But if that was switched over to what would be a sprinkler program instead and ran the same way as a duster program. So now the reason why the buildings are run down is like if you want to put in a new kitchen, you want to put in a new bathroom, you want to put some new windows in your house, but if you hit that threshold, the building department will tell you, okay, you have a 4 or 5 family, you have to throw in sprinklers now too. and it's only because you tried to make the unit better. You tried to make the unit nicer. You tried to make it more comfortable for the people living there. So a lot of people are hindered because of the sprinklers.
Right.
That's why a lot of these downtown second and third floors aren't being used because of the cost of sprinklers. If
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Right. So that is a huge hindrance in the state. But instead, if we did it just like we did with lead, that we say, okay, we see that we have a huge problem. And it's also a public safety issue because when there's a fire, we'd love to have the sprinklers go on.
Right.
And I mean, it's instant relief for what's going on for the threat that's happening.
Right.
So, but it helps all the way around. It's a multi-pronged effect right here because the thing you would have is that, let's say you do this and you own a 5 or 6 family.
Right.
You go, you apply for it, they say yes. You get the money to do it. Right off the bat, when they go to put the pipe in the street, you've put the backhoe company and all the heavy equipment operators to work. So now the plumbers have to go in the street and they do all that. Then when you go on the inside the house, you have the plumbers, the electricians, the sheet walkers, the drywallers. Everybody's working together to get the sprinkler system in. So the mass of money that comes back to your community, your direct community, is incredible. These people are going to go to eat at your restaurant, buy a car in your community, and do all this other stuff. And that's the return on your investment. And then when the person either sells or does something with their house, refinances, that money comes right back to the state for the next person. But the job opportunities are endless. The public safety issue is incredible. And it would be putting literally hundreds and probably thousands of people to work in overnight like this.
Just having them put on
By a sprinkler duster program.
Sprinkler duster program. Okay.
It can help the economy and it helps public safety.
But I do remember the lead paint scare and how we all had to.
We all needed to be educated. We all needed to do it, and it was a great program. It served its purpose. I know it's still serving its purpose, but hopefully because you've got to find ways and means to approach anything to get the funds to it. So hopefully that money is still sitting there, the millions of dollars, because it's been revolving. It should just keep refilling itself. So if it is slowing down, if not, let's just find another way to get the ways and means to supply the duster program for the sprinklers, and then work on the same thing. It's the tax money and the revenue that's going to come back is going to be incredible from all these people working. And then has everybody selling their house or doing something, the money's coming right back to the state. So it's just a revolving account that should always replenish itself. But if you're putting out $120,000, the taxes that come in from the person working, because that $120,000 is all material bought and in employment. So everybody that gets taxed, so that's all that $120 is coming back to the state in one form or the other.
Okay, it's interesting. I didn't realize that the two things were actually kind of melded together.
Well, they're not yet, but I'd like it just the same
but you'd
theory
like to
because
see
I've
it.
seen how well it worked with lead.
Right.
We could make it work and bring our economy and our housing assets up. We could build a level of housing units and make it comfortable and make it safe and decent for the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
No, is it $20,000 or $30,000 for the
It depends on the building, depends on how far they got to do.
whole building, or is it $20,000 or $30,000 for apartment?
Oh, just to cut the street and get into the building, it's probably going to be about $20,000. By the time they do it, they tie it. That's just the beginning, and then it could be $10,000 to $20,000 per unit, depending on the size, the things, how many corridors you have. But it's an expensive process, and that's why a lot of stuff doesn't get done.
Okay, it's good to know. I didn't know anything about it. It's an interesting
Yes.
piece of information.
And so even if I don't, that's why I'm saying it during this campaign also. So hopefully it's said enough that even if I don't make it, it still gets done. That would be a success in its own.
That would be a success. That's true. That would be a success in this one. Thank you very much for being on the show. We really enjoyed your statements. I'd like to have you back on again before
Anytime, it's my pleasure.
before the end of the campaign. I'm trying to get the two other people who are running in, but I haven't gotten them yet. So I appreciate you calling me. Thank you.
You're welcome, and I'll be running a good, healthy, positive campaign.
That's good.
That's it.
Glad to know it. Thanks, Steve.
My pleasure. Okay.